Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. I'm getting off now. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
How are you guys holding up? Are we all
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Charles.
Hey, Pinky, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm great, thank you.
Yes.
Shatik,
Yes.
you see that you have Juanita's name under one of our board members?
Oh,
No, Juanita's on the call.
yeah, so Tahani asked me to send her
Tahani
the,
has Juanita's name.
so Tahani, hi, Mr. Powell. Tahani asked me to send her the link, and because that's the link I registered with, that's why it's under my name. She would have to,
I just fixed it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, now we have Tahani's right name. Thank you, Juanita. Thank you for that explanation.
Okay. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Terry Wisdom here, and I'm new. So welcome. Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We have any other new board members on? Other
Yes,
than
hello.
Terry?
I'm new. This is my very first meeting. I'm happy to be appointed. What an honor. I'm Kamaria.
Hey, Kamari,
Welcome.
how you
Hi,
doing?
everyone.
Welcome.
I'm
Welcome.
new as well. I'm Milan Reed. Also really excited to be here.
Hello,
via
Milan.
Zoom. Hi.
Hello,
Well,
guys.
we've
My
been-
name is, Marcus Wilson. Again, happy to be a part of this and honored as well. So hello to all.
Well, thanks for joining under these extraordinary circumstances. And we've been waiting for you. We've read your backgrounds, and we know that you're all dynamic, and we're so happy to have you.
Thank you very much, and happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Adrian, how you doing?
She must be muted.
I'm so blessed. Hey.
Oh, hi, Adrian.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Charles, for asking. How are you, sir?
I am great, so you can tell us all the wonderful things you're doing up there in the AG's office.
We are working. Today, we had a call with some small business owners and nonprofit organizations about PPP. A lot of the disparity that's going on, we are looking into that in terms of Black and brown people not receiving the aid that is due them as opposed to their counterparts. I would send over to you guys a press release that was released this evening because we wanted to have the call first. I also have some documents to share with you guys, a bulletin of how it's supposed to go, a link where you guys can actually make complaints about it. We had real live Harlem and in some Bronx, but mainly Harlem business owners with real life stories reporting today and making formal complaints about the banks in our community who they have great relationships with, business relationships with, and they could not receive the PPP. So that right now is a focus point for me. But there are other things going on. That's one of the key ones. Thank you for asking.
So can you put that link in the chat?
What I can do, I can probably, I'm gonna see if I can upload the bulletin because it's embedded in the bulletin. You know what I mean?
Okay. Or send it to
I'm gonna see how my
Shatik and
tech
he'll post it.
savviness really works. I'm gonna try. I'll try. Okay, hold on.
So Cicely, we were just chatting before you joined. You'll tell us when we really need to get started.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I apologize. I've been on. It's just that I'm having technical difficulties over here. So this is like my third computer I've been on today. So I'm just kind of like trying to figure it out right now. But thank you, Adrian, for that report. Hopefully we'll hear a little bit more from you in a minute. Hopefully that wasn't everything, right? Thank you, Adrian. Okay, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. And I'm glad to see everyone out, especially our new board members. We're going to give you a special welcome in a second. And I apologize that I haven't gotten a second or a chance to reach out to you. We just got your information very recently, so I definitely will be reaching out, as well as the officers of the board and the entire board as well, to welcome you. Shatik, are we ready to begin?
Yes, we can. I'm still getting people on the line as they're coming in.
Okay.
I mean, you can begin, and I'll just continue to bring people on.
Okay. And we'll follow the agenda. First of all, let me just welcome you again. My name is Cicely Harris. I'm the chair of Community Board 10. This is our second virtual meeting. We had our April meeting virtually, and this is our May meeting, so welcome. Hopefully this goes just as smoothly. We're still all getting used to this new technology that we're required to use at this time. So we want to go ahead and get started. Just a few rules really quickly of ways that we can make this a lot smoother. All of our board members should be panelists. So if you are a board member and you're under the attendees, please text me or Shatik, and we will put you in the panelist list. That's how we're going to be able to see you. That's how we're going to be able to vote. We do have voting items today. So our new board members, if you feel comfortable voting, you can go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to let us know. Raise your hand in the chat. As a panelist, you can raise your hand. Attendees can also raise your hand, but you can also use the question and answer section or the chat. Yes. So we will go ahead and put our elected officials and their representatives as panelists. So Shatik, if you see anyone that's coming in that's an elected official, so they could go ahead and speak, that would be great to go ahead and put them in as panelists. And we will be paying attention to the chat and to the Q&A. So if you have any questions or concerns, definitely put those in there and we will raise those up at the right time. Okay. I will call the meeting to order now. It is 6:11 p.m. We will start with the regular agenda. I do see a couple of elected officials on here. Adrian, did you want to go ahead and start this evening?
Hello again, everyone. I'm so pleased to see so many people well with everything that's going on with this virus. We're such a strong, resilient people, and it warms my heart to see so many people up and still doing the work of the people. So Shay on that one. I was sharing about and I'm going to try my best to upload the bulletin that the Attorney General's office, where I work for, Letitia James, has put together regarding this whole PPP process. There's been a number, just so you guys know, scam artists have been popping up everywhere. You know what? I got that loan for you, and people at this time, in dire straits to pay their employees to make sure that their staff are actually still gainfully employed or trying to get some money out of desperation. They're not, reading the fine print or not reaching out to our office to see how legitimate these persons are. So we have to get kind of in front of it before it goes out of whack. So I'm really beseeching your assistance as leaders in the community to assist us in, making sure that people are aware. I will do my level best to upload this. I'm trying now to do it so that you guys have this. So, and there's a way for them to make sure that they're not being scammed. Additionally, there's also been a disproportionate granting of PPE for black and brown people as opposed to people who are non-black and brown, like white organizations. Some of them who have not been, long-standing businesses, but are reaping that. And that's something that our office is now looking into with at least a few major banks. It's not so much that I can say, but I can say that we are looking into this matter aggressively with banks. So I'm going to do my best also to send over to maybe to Shatika someone, because I know that I probably can't put a press release up in there, but I'm going to do what I can. And then everyone who's here, I'm sure you have a running list of email addresses, and you can share them with everyone. And I know it's a number of other things, but that is key at this moment. And in a sense of time, that's what I'll share tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne. As always, you are a source of great information. And thank you for always just being available for the community, especially during this time. Thank you so much. I did see Nina Saxon. Nina, are you available to speak on behalf of Comptroller Scott Stringer? Okay, we can come back to Nina. I do see Nina Norwood. Would you like to speak, Nina?
Yes, hello everyone. Everyone knows me. Well, I would like to formally introduce myself. I am Nina Norwood. I am the community liaison for New York State Assembly member Inez Dickens. I definitely want to bid a healthy hello to everybody. Hope everyone's holding up, with everything that's going on. I know we're all out here doing our best to keep everybody updated and informed of what's going on in the community. So I have a couple of updates to share. First off, the Assemblymember Dickens office is still working diligently with helping our constituents with the ongoing unemployment claims crisis that has plagued a lot of people in this city and especially in this country. We are working with our constituents to log on to DOL and expedite their application process, hoping that would push for them to get the assistance needed. There are so many out there that definitely have food to buy and bills to pay. So any delay, especially delays lasting 3 weeks or more, is a tremendous strain on an individual's mental well-being. It's definitely on their financial well-being. So we are working very diligently as far as our office is concerned to assist in that matter. Also, Assemblymember Dickens has been working on getting meals for NYCHA developments as well as senior communities within her district in the 70th. We've been working very hard on that as well. Even buildings that have also been provided meals through other means, we are still working to do what we can from our end because, there's no such thing as too much. There are a lot of residents out there that are working with the seniors that cannot move around, cannot really come out of their home, and doesn't have a lot of family to be able to get out and get meals for them. So we want to make sure that everybody is served within our district. And I know there are others out there that are doing the same. So hats off to everybody that's out there working hard to make sure families get fed. And then lastly, I just want everyone to know that our office is open, kind of reflecting on which Ms. Adrienne Felton said as far as small businesses. The Assembly member is on calls almost daily, dealing with the small business assistance with finances during this crisis. So our office is definitely open. I have my email address. You can reach out to my Gmail personal. That's nnorwood, so that's NNORWOOD 25@gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to translate any messages to the Assembly member or look into things myself as far as how we can continue to assist small businesses within our district and within our city with getting the financial compensation that they need during this crisis. And I again want to wish everybody a happy, forward moving. I don't even know, we're getting short on words to describe what we're all trying to do at this point in time, but I wish everybody good health and good state of mind going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, for that report. And again, I would also like to thank the Assemblywoman for taking a lead with our small businesses. She's had some excellent calls and made those available to a plethora of people. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for the work that she's doing.
Thank you.
We've been joined now by our Manhattan Borough President, Madam Gail Brewer, along with Athena Moore and Natalie Espino. Madam Borough President, would you like to speak?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for all your work. The community board and your district manager has been everywhere, and I know how hard that is. I'm really impressed with him. You are all great as members, and the new members are fabulous, but your district manager is even more fabulous because he really does make the effort 7 days a week, because I'm out there, so I see him and I appreciate it, because I know that it brings back good information to the community. So we're all working on so many different fronts. Like I said, congratulations to the two new members. I know we're all tired of hearing about census, but we're not doing well. I only base my number on Staten Island, because I am determined that Staten Island is not going to beat us. Well, they're at 53%. We're at 48.3%, and the city is at 46.1. So we're beating the citywide average, which is not great, but Staten Island, we got to beat them. So I just want to let you know, I'm going to be calling every single member of the community boards in the borough of Manhattan just to make sure to say hello. But my next question is, have you filled it out? And some people, maybe they've been away because of health reasons, and now they're back and they think that, they shouldn't have filled it out or whatever, but fill it out. So I want to congratulate you on your housing committee. It was great to participate. We're all trying to figure out in the middle of June, the moratorium goes till then, but the rent's going to be due. And I heard today on one of my gazillion Zooms that thanks to the Congress member, that the next stimulus hopefully will include residential rent support. We do need it from the federal government. It might also include operating dollars for municipalities and states. I didn't hear anything about commercial rent. So who knows, but just every piece of information I try to pass on. We need money for those who can't pay the rent. We're all working on masks, and we were able to give out 50,000 this week and last week, and we focused on the nursing homes, the churches, Riverbend, Riverton, the Kennedy Center, and of course the great street corner resources and the Senegalese Association. We will have more, so let me or Athena know if you need more. I've been on a lot of testing, tracing, and treatment discussions today. And of course, we're all trying to figure out, what does contact tracing mean? We need more testing sites. I think our newsletter is the only space where I have both the state and the city. They kind of keep them separate. So anyway, that lists the ones that are public, as well as, of course, Harlem Hospital. And I think basically now, I believe that there are 13 or 14 health and hospital sites, in addition to the ones that I listed that are available. And I do think that anybody can go, whether you have symptoms or not. But in Harlem, of course, the Ryan Health Center and the great work that Sydenham is doing are phenomenal. The mayor's giving out tons of masks in the parks. I know I went to one of them last weekend to run to 10 to 12, and by 10:45 they were all gone. So if you go anywhere, you got to go earlier. I just did a contact tracing discussion with the public advocate, and we're doing one on Tuesday, May 12th at 6:30. It's a town hall YouTube with the issue of public health and privacy with Columbia University and Congress Nadler and many others. We've been doing these wonderful forums with Columbia on different topics, but I think people, very complicated topic, and good to have a public discussion. So I hope you'll join us. Now, there are a lot of jobs. We have posted them in our newsletter. I think you know that, but it's my impression that there is a state job email/website. And then there's a city's job listing. So I would apply for both if people are interested. I think pay less attention to what you need in terms of academics and just get on. I noticed in California, they're using AmeriCorps. Of course, we want the summer youth employment program to exist.
Yay.
What a great way, but to have young people participate as contact tracers. I can't imagine a better group. So something to think about in terms of young people. And I know NYC Service is also doing some funding so that people can be supportive of delivering essential services like meals and food. Hazel Dukes has done a great job on the issue of nursing homes. I think that her letter is extraordinary. I've seen some pretty awful things in the nursing homes in the last couple of weeks, even though I have to say, they did beg for PPE 3 weeks ago. And we tried to give them what we had, but it was a very sorry situation between the state and the city. The city said it was the state, and the state didn't necessarily move quick enough, but everybody's aware of it now, although a lot of people have died. We're all working on the food issue, and I think you've heard me many times say thank you to Fresh Direct. For 3 weeks, they were contributing their services to the NYCHA. That's where we focus, on the top of Manhattan to the bottom of Manhattan. We did King Towers, Lehman Village, Carver, Johnson, Washington, and Clinton, but also many other developments in the borough of Manhattan. And now, to the credit of the mayor, he has picked up. So all last week and this week, we meet the wonderful people from Fresh Direct with our van, and then we take whatever food we can, because they're big packets of food, to other developments in the area. Athena and I, along with the amazing Rosa Rivers, have been working on the issue of uptown arts. I am focused very laser on this issue because, first of all, nothing in our city is anything without the arts, and it hasn't gotten enough attention. So there's only the box office, city money, state money, or philanthropy. There's no third-party reimbursement for the arts. So we have our third teleconference on May 15th in the evening, 6:30. Anybody's willing to join. Board 10 has been terrific, but we need, I know that your Committee of Arts and Culture is phenomenal, and so is Board 9's, but we just have to figure out a way for these groups to get some funding. And so I pointed out to the city today that if they're going to be funding contact tracers, who could be better than artists to be the ones that understand how to reach peers and people in general. We're very focused on summer youth, but also on just schools in general, because all during the year I said social worker is needed in the schools. And now, of course, a social worker is needed more than ever in every school, given all of the stress that we're under. So on May 15th, which is a Friday at 3:30, we're doing a virtual town hall on the need for social workers. The executive director of the McSilver Institute and many others are going to be joining us. I don't need to tell you the need there, but it is frustrating to me that we're still trying to figure this topic out. And I just want to say finally, what what we have to learn from all of this, whether it is the challenges of the digital divide, the challenges of food, the challenges of jobs. I know that the assembly members put a lot of time in on small business. I did get some good news from the people we've been working with at the Columbia Law School and Business School, that groups that thought they were never going to get through the process have gotten at least to the desk of folks at the Small Business Administration in Washington. I don't know that they have money yet, but they at least feel like they got some help, and I'm hoping that works. And so, and then of course, it's just all the construction issues. I know that the Enos Francis houses is an ongoing discussion that Athena's been working on. So I also want to say, I know we've lost some people. We lost Karen Horry's sister. We also lost Rosa McLeish, who was a member of the CEC in District 5. And she died. They had a wonderful memorial service for her virtually as one of their meetings. So we lost too many people, you know, I know, but not something that we can ever forget. So thank you for all your work, and there's a lot more to be done, but we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Madam Borough President. And I've said it in the last meeting, and I'll say it again. If anyone is not subscribed to your digest, to your newsletter, they should definitely do that. It is excellent, and it is just a quick glance at everything that's going on. So it is something that people need to actually be aware of. And I've been on a lot of calls, Madam Borough President. You have been right there, and even on more calls. So thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for those masks. I know that people appreciated them. We're always looking for more resources. We did have a question, and if you could answer it, great, or if any of the other panelists can answer it. We have a question from one of our constituents about renters and businesses. She is a small homeowner, and like many folks, she doesn't have tenants, but the mortgage is still due. What can be done for folks in that situation?
My understanding is that we'll have to see what's coming out of Washington. That is one possibility, because I believe that mortgage and rent are part of the discussion. So other than that, the other possibility is Albany. And I'm sure there are Albany legislators. One suggestion has been that the mortgage be paid at the end of your 30-year or 15-year or whatever, and that you not pay during this time period. So all I can say to you is either money from Washington, or there has to be a change of the law in Albany. And I think both are being discussed.
Okay, thank you. And just another question. We were on a call earlier today where we were discussing testing sites, the availability of testing sites. Do you know, or can we at this time raise the question whether we'll be testing sites, more testing sites above 125th for folks that live uptown?
Yeah. That came up earlier with Senator Brian Benjamin.
Yes.
And I think you know the same discussion. I think it definitely should be taking place. There were some suggestions that were made, and I think people are focused on it, whether it's more hours and different approach. Because Harlem Hospital, they're so swamped. They tend to work internally. So how could they use a site that's maybe not exactly on the hospital, but one of their nearby sites, to be more of a site for the community, as an example.
Yeah.
So that's what came up, and I know, we need others, so I think that's going to happen.
Thank you for that. And we have Dr. Dukes and our wonderful health committee and Dr. Shell Smith and everyone involved. So whatever you would need from us to make that happen, we are here to help you with that.
Great.
Thank you. Athena, did you want to say a few words, or Natalie?
Thank you so much, Cicely. The Borough President really has said it all this time. We just want to continue to extend ourselves to the board, and to thank again you and Shatik and all of your committee chairs, and welcome the new board members. We're just here in support of you and want everyone to continue to be safe.
Thank you, Athena. I know that it's a topic now, and because of the increase and the stress that everyone is under. We were talking about domestic violence. It has increased. Thank you, Stephanie from WARM, for bringing that up. Are there any initiatives that any of the elected officials want to bring up tonight, talk about, or solutions, or hotlines, or anything like that?
I think that I'm not only worried about domestic violence, but the teachers point out that young people, their numbers in terms of any kind of abuse are way, way down. And you know better, being in an office that deals with this, that's not a good thing either. So I think all we've been able to do, to be honest with you, is to publicize in every newsletter how people can access the hotlines. But I'm equally worried about kids, which of course could come under domestic violence, but usually the numbers are much higher to the hotline. So God knows what's going on in some of these homes. I don't know what to do about it, honestly, except for keep letting people know that they are secure in contacting the hotline and any other aspect of peer-to-peer where they're trusted.
Madam Chair, if I may. Hello?
Yes.
This is Mari Moss. So I've been working with Stephanie. I'm working with Stephanie on a panel that we want to do before the end of this month regarding domestic violence and child abuse. One of the things that our superintendent did was put out a survey to parents on what is going on in District 5. They're supposed to be following that up with well-check visits from somebody from the social service sector. But I think we need to do some follow-up on that to make sure that children are safe in their homes. Last month was National Child Abuse Prevention Month. So that was something that we were looking at, trying to get a push for. But I think it takes coordination with social services, the schools, and also just asking the presidents of the neighborhood associations in each building to do well checks on families, like going door to door with families to make sure that families are safe and that children especially are safe within their homes during this isolation or social distancing while everyone is at home quarantined.
Thank you, Mari, for that update. Thank you for that. I do believe Nina Saxon is on. Nina, did you want to speak on behalf of Comptroller Scott Stringer?
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is okay. Karen, I'm so sorry. And welcome to the new board members. This week, the Comptroller announced his preliminary, his answers to the preliminary budget. And I'm just going to highlight one thing that I think is very significant, that speaks a lot of volumes, and that is that the Comptroller, during his report, announced that because of COVID, there's going to be over 900,000 unemployment. So I just want you to know that that's like really, really serious. And what I'm going to do is make sure that I send the actual budget to the district manager so everyone can look at the overall, his analysis of what the city budget is and how it reflects us. Also, as you know, that our office is also doing a phone banking. We have over $2.5 million in prevailing wages that we want to give back to all New Yorkers throughout the city. Even though Manhattan doesn't have a lot, we have over 67, I think, people, but we don't know where that 67 is. I can't tell you that on a personal level. But so if you think that you deserve money that from a prevailing wage job that you didn't get, please file in our office. We're doing a phone banking. I will also make sure I send that to the district manager to send out to everyone in the community. We also, I think the Manhattan Borough President's Office has an amazing newsletter that comes out like every day, which I look at. We also have the office also has a resource guide, which if you don't have it, I will definitely make sure that Shatik gets it so he can share it to everybody. And we also have an MWBE webinar, which we've been doing, and the next one will be on May the 14th. We've been having over 500 people RSVP, and we have it over in 10 different languages. So if anybody feels that that you want to go to this MWBE webinar, to where we are helping MWBEs navigate to city contracts and during this tough time, please do so. I am here for the duration of the meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina.
Hi, this is Nina from Assemblyman Taylor's office. How are y'all doing?
Oh, great, Nina. Welcome.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment. And again, Karen, I'm so sorry to hear about the passing of your sister. But I wanted to just comment on the fact that there needs to be an increase in testing above 125th Street. So the Assemblyman has made a recommendations, especially within our district above 140th, for places that should be testing sites. So we're looking forward to that, being on the way. And then also our office has been also making wellness calls to also go to your point, Mari, about domestic violence and just, people not having access to resources. So I think it's just important that we push and make sure that we are informing constituents and as well as our neighbors on the 24/7, domestic violence hotlines that are available through the state. And it's completely private. You can text, you can call, you can fill out a form online. And I can put that information in the chat, but we definitely need to just push and make sure that our seniors are okay, our children, and those who are in, domestic abusive partnerships.
Thank you, Mina. Is that all?
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for all that you're doing. And Assemblyman Taylor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do believe I see Isaiah Jenkins from the mayor's office. Did you want to say a few words?
Yep. Thank you, Cicely. Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm sorry. Can I give my update a little later?
Yes, you can. We can move on really quickly. I believe is Cordell Clare on the call? District Leader Cordell, did you want to say a few words? Cordell?
Cicely Cordell is in the attendees.
She's a panelist
listing.
now. She should be.
Oh, okay. I asked if she'd be brought over.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
We promoted her up to panelist. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to remind everybody, because there's a lot of confusion for some people out there on the election coming up on June 23rd. There is an election. There was an election even when there was a conversation about there not being a presidential primary. There was a court case which a judge ruled that New York does have to have the presidential primary on the ballot on June 23rd. That could change if it is appealed or anything like that. But I don't want people to think, just like before, I didn't want people to think that there wasn't an election. We have an election anyway, and it's just making us harder. This whole COVID-19 situation is going to make it a little harder for us to get message out to the public and to our neighbors and our friends and our families. So I just want everyone to be mindful. We do have an election on June 23rd. As of right now, we have an election, and everyone is entitled to get an absentee ballot. Those are the application supposed to be getting mailed to every voter, but you don't have to wait for that. And I can put it in the chat, Cecily. People can go online and request their own absentee ballot. Make sure you have that application in. Make sure you have that application in, and it'll be sent to you so that you for everybody can vote by absentee ballot. We don't know what the situation will be on June 23rd. I'm very sorry for your loss and others who are bereaved. This COVID-19 has touched so many families, including mine. And, we are going to get through it. So you have my deepest sympathy, everyone who has lost anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Cordell, and thank you for reminding us about the election. Really quickly, I know you're not an elected official, but Nicole Yearwood, did you have anything to add about the Census 2020 very quickly?
Hi, Cicely. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Good evening to the board members. Pardon me if there's a little noise outside. It's a little busy this evening with traffic and the sirens. I don't want to say she stole my thunder, but the borough president did a little bit, and I appreciate her for doing that, for emphasizing the importance of the census. For Community Board 10, just want to give you the numbers. 47.95% of the community board tracks have responded to the census. That is as of last night at midnight. We update the numbers on a daily basis. There are 2 tracks in particular that are still in the 30% ranges. Those are census tracts 200 and census tracts 226. Census tracts 200 go from 118th to 124th Street, from Malcolm X Boulevard to Mount Morris Park and 5th Avenue. So it's basically those tracks around Mount Morris Park on the Lenox Avenue side. And then there's census tract number 226, which goes from 130th to 134th Street between Malcolm X Boulevard and Frederick Douglass Boulevards. And then there's the census tract that contains Dunbar Houses and Esplanade Garden, census tract number 236. And so those 3 census tracts are my, focus in the Community Board 10 area to make sure we get those numbers up. The others are in the 40s, some are in the 50s. Right now, as you know, the Bureau has been impacted by COVID-19, as has everyone else. So we're not doing any field activities until June 1st. That was the last word we received. Our COVID-19 updates are regularly posted on our website. We have pushed the date back for response. We've made a request to Congress that we push back the response date to October 31st, but our message is always and will be to respond now, online, by phone, or using the form that was received in the mail. By today, everyone should have received information on all 3 methods of response. And we are now looking at how we're going to do the non-response follow-up given this new environment. But if anyone has any questions, I'll be on the line. I saw a couple of questions come through. I will respond to those in the chat. You can visit my2020census.gov to complete your census. You can call 844-330-2020, or you can respond using the form. The questions are simple. Again, the packet is thick. I've received a lot of feedback regarding the size of the packet. I'll just quickly say the packet is thick because could be a form inside. There could be information on how to call and respond, as well as information of going online to respond. And that can be kind of thick because you can respond in 13 languages and you can respond for up to 10 people. But if it's just one single person, the form is going to take you 2 minutes. It's not taking, even for more people. Someone said to me, there's several people in their home, it took less than 5 minutes. So please don't be deceived by the packet. Please go ahead and open it up. And again, I'm here for questions. Thank you so much, Cicely. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole, for that update and always keeping us apprised of what's going on with the census and letting us know our numbers. So we'll keep in contact with you so we'll know where we are, those numbers. Thank you. Isaiah, if you're ready now. If not, let me know and we can move on to the next portion.
So I have a question for Nicole. Oh, I'm sorry, let Isaiah do his presentation.
Hi. Okay, so I have some updates. It's going to be super brief. Mask coverings. I think the borough president mentioned this before. We are doing free mask giveaways at park locations. Folks who want more info on where those locations are, nyc.gov/face coverings. You can go there to see where they're going to be and when. We are also working on revamping the food program. I sent out to CBOs and other partners information on an RFI that the city has issued for CBOs that may have capacity to help with the food delivery program. Not a lot of information has been released yet, and as of right now, they're just asking for orgs that are interested. No contracts have been signed yet. But any orgs that are interested, please do let me know, and I can send that information. Also, other updates. Today, well, not today, this week, we are continuing to open more testing sites. Testing is our #1 priority. In Harlem, we're operating St. Nicholas Houses, Sydenham, and Harlem Hospital. We also opened the Dykeman Clinic on Dykeman Street, uptown. And I will stop there. If folks have any questions, happy to take a few.
Thank you, Isaiah, for your update. We will continue to monitor the Q&A and the chat box to see if there are any questions, but thank you so much for your update. I believe there was a question from Charles regarding the census. Is that correct, Charles Powell? Charles, is your question, can we connect the census to PPP and unemployment applications?
So I was trying to cut my talking time short, but thank you, Charles, for the question. We can actually connect the census to unemployment and PPP. One of the things I work with the Harlem Complete Count Committee on doing is really having a conversation about how the census has an impact across the board. So and even during this pandemic, why we're still focusing on the census. The census data is going to be used to provide funding for all of the resources we're going to need in response and recovery. What does that mean? Unemployment insurance is based on census data. The funding formula for unemployment insurance is based on census data currently. And of course, with more people applying for unemployment insurance, we're going to need to make sure we have the correct numbers. In terms of PPP, healthcare, our clinics in our communities, all of those are going to be based on funding to those resources are based on census data. So we need to make sure, even if we weren't before, that we make sure we have a complete and accurate response, particularly in Harlem, because we need the resources. A lot of our food pantries, our senior programs, our school lunches, we have grab and go lunches. School breakfast and school lunch programs are based on decennial census data. Funding to our schools is going to be based on decennial census data. Head Start program funding, also based on decennial census data. Pell Grants, student loans, Medicaid, Medicare. So there's all these resources that impact the health of our communities that are based on decennial census data. Section 8 vouchers, funding for public housing, also based on census data. So yes, we can connect that. And I mean, there's a multitude of programs that are directly tied to census data that we're going to need in response and recovery. And separate and apart from those, in general, census data is used in response and recovery to emergencies and disasters. We just actually launched a portal on our website that's directly talking about COVID recovery response for our businesses and for individuals. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Nicole, for that answer. And just really quickly, the census can be completed without the code that is sent in the mail. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. You can use your address.
Thank you. Okay, well, I believe we have one last elected official report from Jacques Brunville.
Yes, this is Jacques. I want to give an update from the District Attorney's Office, Cy Vance. Just want to go over a couple things very quickly in terms of how to reach out to our office for domestic violence. We do have our domestic violence hotline that is still operational. And we also have our counselors that are still providing services on a virtual basis. I'll leave that number in the chat box just so folks can have it. But we also urge folks to call 911 if there is an immediate domestic violence emergency. Along with that, we also have an email for fraud complaints. So if you are a victim or know someone that is a victim of any scams or fraud related to COVID-19 or an experimental drug, we do urge folks to reach out about those concerns. And lastly, we have a WhatsApp for unauthorized construction or reporting dangerous conditions. Of course, folks can still call 311, but we also have an office WhatsApp number, which I'll also leave in the chat box. That's all the update I have for now. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Jacques. And I believe just joining us is Philip Ellison from the New York City Public Advocate's Office. Do you have a quick report, Philip?
Cicely, I think he's an attendee that needs to be brought over.
Shatik, did you bring Philip over? Sorry.
Yeah, he's on the line.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Harlem, what's going on tonight? I hope everyone is in good health. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Shatik, for calling me and allowing me to be on this call. A couple actually really important updates, Harlem. The public advocate is in our office has really been at work in the ways that we can. Always more work to do. I would say one, just because it just happened, and I'll work with Shatik and so forth to share this out. But I was personally a part of this research for the last bit. We are one of the, it's not about being first, but I think Jumani in calling out health data, health disparities data, calling out police, he's also called out the mayor and the governor. We've heard a lot in the media about contact tracing, that there needs to be more testing, but there needs to be contact tracing, right? Tracing who has symptoms, who has been sick, who has symptoms, and who they've been in touch with. And so there's not a lot of information about what that looks like. We've heard names like Bloomberg, and the governor and the mayor been out there around this. So what we just did is at 5 o'clock this evening, alongside Borough President Brewer, we co-sponsored and led the event. We had a town hall, a virtual town hall on contact tracing with a number of people of color who are leaders in the space of technology, public health, and law to really break down what does contact tracing mean, as well as a doctor. What does it mean for us? What does it mean? And from a technology standpoint, if they're going to be doing technology, what does it mean? Manual contact tracing with people, and it's likely going to be a mix of both. And what's most important for Harlem is thinking about the data management, for all of our data, for all the folks in public housing, all the poor folks, all the folks in Harlem, who's going to manage our data, or the folks that come in contact with the system? When is it going to end? We don't want anyone to monetize or sell this data. We don't want anyone to abuse it. And these are the questions that we have to answer. So essentially my updated part is that Jumani Williams, the public advocate, our office sent letters to the mayor and governor last week. It was in the Daily News on Friday and written about. We had a press conference on Monday, and we just had the town hall. So I'll make sure that I send out that press release and the town hall, the link for everyone on Facebook Live to everyone on this board and everyone who's on the listserv. Second big thing today is that the public advocate with Borough President Adams and a number of other cities, a number of other elected officials, city councilmen in Austin, Texas, Baltimore, Chicago, sent a letter to the Department of Justice saying if there can there be investigations on some of the executive leaders in terms of mishandling this public health crisis, right? And so it's a coalition of leaders that Jumani Williams, public advocate, is really pushing to try to push the DOJ to look at this because there's been malfeasance in many ways. And lastly, in terms of we know that folks that look like us have been getting policed in ways that other people across the city and other areas have not. We've seen it in the Lower East Side, and we'll see it in Harlem. We know that for social distancing and how we're treated and so forth by the police. And so Jumani, the public advocate, has been talking about that for weeks, about how do we police at this time and who does it? Is it public health care workers? So all to say is that Jumani was in the press on Monday and talking to our government leaders, pushing back on how we are policed and who polices us, who deals with this public health crisis. So, the public advocate in our office is thinking about the health data. We're thinking about these things because we do not want, and I'll close out by saying this, the public advocate's office does not want, we have to ask the right questions. We can't just assume our leaders are in good intention. We need to put it out there. We need to educate people as well about our data and privacy and our rights. So we do not want folks to use this public health crisis as a way to expand their surveillance state. And so I give you all this updates. I appreciate your time. I'll make sure I follow up with these announcements I just made and the video of the town hall so you can share and learn. Shout out to Shatik, and I also Cordell Clear, who's engaged with this board as well, was there and sharing information. Thank you.
Do you know, Philip, where can people apply for the contact tracing jobs? Has that been made available yet?
There are certain places I do know, and someone was posting this, and I can follow up and send. And that was I just want to say actually for a second, thank you for the question, because I want Harlem to be clear. Our office has said this, and I've done the personal research. In California, there are people that are not public health professionals that are going to be hired to be contact tracers. If they're going to contact trace people in our communities, in public housing, poor people, undocumented people, different immigrants, they should also be coming from those communities and those community-based organizations, right? So we have to have that narrative out there and push back on that. And so there are some places, I know it's on the Fund for Public Health is putting out the contact tracing, different levels of jobs out there. So if you look at the Fund for Public Health in New York City, they do have some of those jobs, but we're concerned that the barrier to entry for some of these jobs that could be done by a lawyer or an educator or a different profession, as long as they're trained appropriately, is too high. So we want to push back.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that update. I believe that's all from our elected officials at this time. We're going to move on. We do have a special speaker tonight, Mr. Vosa Rivers. But before we bring him on to answer some questions about arts and culture, about tourism, about economic development, or anything that he wants to share, because we're open to whatever he has to give us, I wanted to just really quickly announce to everyone that we do have 9 new board members. I know Madam Borough President brought them up, and Athena, but we wanted to welcome them. Their names, just so everyone knows, they should be on. I believe they got the information and should be able to attend today's meeting. But we'd like to welcome Omar Arias, Kamaria Milford, Africa O's, Nadine Pinkett, Milan Reed, Aisha Romani, Shadon Smith. I apologize if I am pronouncing anyone's name incorrectly. Marcus Wilson, and Terry Wisdom. Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to working with you. As I said before, we'll definitely get back to you, the officers and I, about training, and hopefully we'll be able to put together maybe a big Zoom call so everyone can welcome you. Okay, so we're going to move on in our agenda. We do have a presentation today by Mr. Vosa Rivers of the Harlem Arts Alliance. Everyone is familiar with Mr. Williams, a Harlem resident, longtime Harlem resident, Harlem Arts Alliance, New Heritage Theater Group, a producer, artist, sits on the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, Harlem Week, you name it, he's into it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. When I'm introduced, what's really important is that I'm a Harlem resident. And I've been a Harlem resident, for the past 7 decades. And so what is important for me is the work that I do in arts and culture, and the spotlight on the importance of the artists who have added to the cultural landscape and the cultural history of this community has just been phenomenal, and we're recognized world over. What has happened with COVID-19 challenges is particularly that the funders and the electeds look at the larger arts institutions first and foremost. Cecily, when you mention tourism, you think of the Apollo Theater in Harlem, or you think of the larger institutions. But the foundation for arts and culture in our community and throughout the city has been the artists who are independent, who are the writers and playwrights and directors and visual artists and choreographers, literary writers, etc., who don't get the attention that they need. And so with the Harlem Arts Alliance, who, as an art service organization with about 350 members of this community, arts and culture practitioners, what we wanted to be able to do is to focus a spotlight on the smaller and smaller arts organizations and independent artists. And how we're doing that is that we have partnered with the Borough President's Office, Gail Brewer and Athena. We have reached out to not only Community Board 10, but Community Board 9 and Community Board 12, because we wanted to create a united front from 96th Street up to Marble Hill, that the artists within that footprint, we want to make sure that we are talking in a unified voice so that the electeds and the city agencies and funders will really understand the importance of the contributions of the independent artists. And so I'm not able to stress that enough. We've done 2 Zoom arts and culture meetings. We're now working on our 3rd. And what's most important is that how do you demystify what is actually available for individual artists if they don't have the resources or the desire to think that what is being proposed is for them also, when they see that a lot of the attention is given to the larger arts organizations. So again, we are committed to the fact that not only do we do it through our advocacy efforts, but also to engage Columbia University to be a part of our advocacy, to have City College also at the table, and to revisit the funders within our own community. West Harlem Development Corporation, who announced that they have now set up an additional pool of dollars for artists. The Empowerment Zone just announced a few days ago that they now have increased their funding for artists with a $500,000 fund. And for those people who live in the Washington Heights Inwood section, the New York Presbyterian has put up dollars, and the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance is looking at those artists in that catchment area. So there's much information that needs to be shared. Working also with Community Board 10 has really been a pleasure. Thank you, George, for your assistance to Athena and I in making sure that we reach out to those artists who are directly impacted and who live within this catchment area. In addition, we have been now working on getting celebrity artists to do PSAs around COVID-19. And so that we're very, very happy with, because WBLS and Image Broadcasting has agreed to post those. And when they post it, they say that it's a courtesy of Community Board 10, Arts and Culture Committee, and also the Harlem Arts Alliance. We are now, through the Chamber, getting ready to launch 2 shows next Saturday on WHCR FM. One is with I'll call him an international journalist and griot. That's Herb Boyd. So Herb Boyd would launch his half-an-hour show that the Chamber and City College will be producing for a half-an-hour show that will air next week, Saturday. In addition, we're taking Imhotep Gary Bird on this journey with us. For many years, Imhotep had a program called the GBE Experience that was done on the stage of the Apollo Theater, where before a live audience, he would bring in artists, celebrities, elected officials, activists, etc., and engage the audience with what was germane to our arts and cultural community. We're bringing that show. It'll be a 1-hour radio program with WHCR also on next Saturday, and that will be an hour show. So we're trying to get the word out in many platforms about the important work of arts and culture, and we continue to do that. And again, thank you to this board for partnering with the Harlem Arts Alliance and making sure that we cover this district and beyond.
Thank you, Mr. Rivers, for just updating us on everything that you have going on, and for supporting the individual artists, because that's really important. What can everyday people like me do to support our institutions, do to support the artists? What can an everyday person do?
Well, first of all, it's important that artists know that they're important. So to recognize that that they are making a contribution and they have made contributions, that's one way of saying that they're important. What we're doing is we are definitely validating the importance of artists by having these Zoom conference calls where hundreds of people are on. And we are also getting the funders to recognize and be a voice for the arts and cultural community. We, the everyday person, I mean, there are multiple GoFundMe campaigns. Artists are really trying to get their archival work together so that they can go onto many platforms through the technology. We have partnered with Silicon Harlem and Clayton Banks to really talk to artists and to show them how they can take their work and take their artistry to that next level that is now the new norm, which is through the use of technology. So again, it's really getting the word out and to be able to work with artists by having these kinds of conversations for them.
Thank you, thank you. And just as a personal note, I was able to join your calls. It was amazing to see the diversity on those calls from Uptown, Midtown, Lower Manhattan. The call really felt like we were coming together as a city to discuss these very important institutions and what gives life to New York City. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. I don't know if anyone has calls, questions for you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us at this time?
No, I think you have a real an impressive list of others who are really waiting to also add their voice. And I know that I'm on another conference call at the same time. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to say a few words in support of arts and culture. And thank you, Athena, for being my partner.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I believe we have one last elected official before we get into our public session. So if Deborah and Kevin could prepare to do a roll call. But let's first hear from, I believe Brian Benjamin is on the line, Senator Brian Benjamin. Hey, Brian.
First of all, thank you, Community Board 10. Thank you, Cicely. We were just on a call earlier today with Shatik Mitchell and a number of folks I see on this call talking about the impact of COVID-19 on Harlem and how we're dealing with some of the health disparities around that. Two quick things that I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I could talk about, but I know time is always an issue here. So I want to focus on two quick things. Number one, as it relates to the police activity around social distancing that a lot of us have been seeing across the city, it is enormously concerning watching the disparate and not even display of police enforcement, where you can have downtown folks are getting PPE and getting pats on the back, whereas uptown in the communities of color, people are getting thrown on the ground, trampled, sent off to jail for a non-offense, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if people aren't social distancing, while that is bad, that is not against the law. I'm not trying to say we clearly need to make sure that we are social distancing, but how we respond to that is the issue. And so I'm in the process of calling on all my legislators. We're going to go to the mayor and tell him that we do not want the NYPD under any circumstance enforcing social distancing going forward. If you look at the fact that it's going to get hotter, this issue is going to become even more of a concern as we get closer to the summer. I do not want to feel like every day I'm watching another Eric Garner video. And so we are going to go to the mayor. I'm calling on all of my electeds. We're working on this right now to say, come up with a new strategy. In my opinion, there should be community-based trusted groups that are part of a process with the city where they're getting compensated from the city. We're spending on a lot of things. We could spend money on some of our community groups going out there and giving public education, telling people about social distancing, doing it in a way where it is respectful of our community and not a situation where I got to watch one sort of approach in Chelsea and a whole other approach in Harlem. So I'm focused on that. I will have a report to you, but this is a serious business. We are not going to create a situation. And oh, by the way, these folks getting arrested are now being put in jail and where we have COVID-19 issues as well, right? And so, and the police officers who are arresting them aren't even using PPE and face masks. And I mean, it's just the amount of hypocrisy with all this is so ridiculous. And so I'm focused very clearly on that. Secondly, on the summer youth employment program, we cannot, going back to the first issue, we cannot have a situation where we don't have employment for our summer youth, particularly in communities where folks need that income to help pay their bills and get very useful life skills and job skills. Given the scale of the city budget, this is this is not even close to a real number. So the fact that we would even look to cut this is ridiculous. And so I'm working with a number of folks to try to get that restored. I can talk about a bunch of other things, but I don't want to take up more of your time because there's so much going on. But I really wanted to talk about those two things. The police should not be enforcing social distancing in our community, and we need to get that summer youth employment program back in. These kids could be on Zoom whatever. We could put kids on Zoom. There's a lot of things we could have them doing. The same way my office is working and some of your offices are working, our summer youth can be doing that too. We don't know how long we'll be in this crisis. And so we need to have our next generation trained to work in this environment, and we should be not cutting some of you jobs at this time. So those are two things I wanted to bring up to you, Madam Chair. And I'm happy
Senator Benjamin, kind of piggybacking on what you said, have a quick question for you here.
Sure.
We're talking about technology, putting young people on technology. Do you have any comment or opinion about the disparate treatment of parents who are having ACS cases brought against them because their students are not logging in, although they don't even have the technology to do so?
I mean, I have a very strong opinion on that. And quite frankly, it's not the logging in issue. See, this is my point. This gets back to the uneven, how we unevenly handle certain issues. There are kids in wealthy communities whose parents are having hard times with logging in also. How do you pick and choose who to handle a certain kind of way? And so, no, I firmly believe that we should be providing the resources to our communities to make sure that our kids get online. And if they can't because of a variety of issues, we've got to use compassion in this time. People are dying in homes. I mean, my office gets so many calls where they're asking, when is someone going to come and take a dead body out of our house? There are people 6, 7, 8 folks in 2-bedroom apartments. Someone's coming back from the hospital saying that they're asymptomatic with COVID. I mean, there's so much trauma and going on in our community. We need to have some compassion at this time and to be careful in how we deal with all these issues. So to be very clear, I do not think that we should in any way, shape, or form be treating folks in that way.
Thank you, Senator Benjamin. It was a great call this afternoon. So I know we have a lot of to-dos to work on. So I'm looking forward to continuing to partner with you, your office, and everything that you're doing. And thank you for everything you're doing on the front lines.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And we're going to move on now to our public session. So we're going to have our first roll call. But before we go into that, I just ask for everyone to be respectful in the chat, online. As we're having these discussions, it is important that we are all able to voice our opinions. But if we can voice those opinions in very constructive ways, that we can ask important questions for our panelists, to each other, that will get us to a solution. That's what we want to be about, especially in this time. So as we move forward, let's have a first roll call by Secretary Deborah Yates and Assistant Secretary Kevin Bitterman. And if I may say really quickly, for voting purposes, the roll call is very important because we will not be doing a voice roll call at this time. So we will only be doing a general consensus. And if there is a disagreement or a nay in that vote, that's when we will do a voice person by person roll call. Okay. All right.
So you mean, so we're doing a voice roll call, but we're doing a consensus vote on voting items?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now,
okay.
we need to run through the, because this will be our quorum to see if we have quorum.
Yeah, and it's a verbal for the roll call.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So Shatik, I'm gonna need you to just unmute everyone, please.
Give me 1 second because I have to go.
Sure, no problem. Just let me know when you're finished.
All right.
Thank you.
Derek, here, present.
I haven't started yet, Derek.
Oh, sorry.
Everyone needs to mute their phones or, just try to eliminate the background noise.
Board members could also unmute themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, we should do that as soon as your name is called. Mute yourself back, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna get started then, okay? Cicely Harris?
Here.
Marquise Harrison?
Present.
Charles Powell?
Present.
Joshua Clennon?
Joshua, I think, hold up. He's here.
Okay, I didn't hear him, but I'm gonna take your word for it. Deborah Yates, that's me, I'm present. Kevin Bitterman?
Present.
Stephanie Palmer? Stephanie Palmer?
She's present.
You have to unmute yourself.
Present.
Thank you. Tahani Abushi?
Present.
Thank you. Omar Arias?
Present.
Thank you. Michelle Booker? I think she's gonna come on later. Deneen Brown Blackman?
Here.
Thank you. Dan Clark? Absent. Jamila Clark?
Present.
Thank you. Christina Curry, I've seen her on the phone. Thank you. Karen Dixon? Karen Dixon?
He's excused.
Thank you. Michael Downey? Absent. Lisa Downing? Absent.
Lisa, no.
It
Lisa
says
said,
Michael's here too.
Okay, I can't.
Lisa.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, yes, let me just change you to being present, Lisa Downing.
Is that Lisa?
And
Yes.
you
Okay. Thanks.
you said Michael Downing is here?
His name is showing on the
Yes,
call.
he's texting, he's here.
I need a verbal, if possible, thank you. Hazel Dukes?
Present.
Thank you. Troy Gathers? Absent. Donna Gill?
Here.
Thank you. Deborah Gilliard? Deborah Gilliard? I thought I saw her. Okay, absent. Stanley Gleaton? Stanley Gleaton? Absent. Delcinia Glover?
Present.
Thank you. George Harrell?
Here.
Thank you. Karen Ann Horry?
Present.
Thank you. Victoria Horsford? Absent. Charles Johnson?
Present.
Safia Mann? Absent. Tamara Martin?
Present.
Thank you. Crystal McKay?
Present.
Thank you. Kamaria Milford?
Present.
Thank you. Thomas Moore?
Present.
Mari Moss? Mari Moss?
Who's present?
Present.
Audio.
Pardon me? Mari?
She's present. She's having audio issues.
Thank you. LaShonda Myers?
Present.
Barbara Nelson?
Present.
Africa O's?
Ask again.
Africa O's? Is that a present?
I see her listed. She's muted.
I'm present. I'm present.
Okay, thank you. Derek Perkinson? We know you present.
I'm present.
Thank you. Nadine Pinkett?
Present.
Is that a present?
Present.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Prince?
Excuse.
Thank you. Stacey Ramos? Absent. Tiffany Reeves?
I'm here.
Thank you. Milan Reed?
Present.
Thank you. Jerica Richardson?
Present.
Thank you. Aisha Romney? Aisha? Is she here? No?
No.
Okay, absent. Cheryl Smith?
Present.
Jadon Smith?
Present.
Keith Taylor? Absent. Chanel Washington?
Rental Market Stabilization Act, I would consider that.
Chanel absent, okay. Marcus Wilson?
Present.
Terry Wisdom.
Present.
Thank you. That completes the first roll call. We're going to move forward, and I'm going to ask if we can have a motion to adopt the minutes by common consent.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Has it been seconded?
Second.
Thank you. If there are no objections, the motion carries. I'd also like to have a motion to adopt the agenda by common consent.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. If there are no objections, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. And if we can, just everyone go back and mute your phones. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves at that time. So we're going to move very quickly into the chairperson's report. The good thing about me going at this point in the agenda, there's so much that's already been said by the elected officials. But a couple things I did want to just highlight is that, you know, we are still here. CB10 is still operating, even though we're not physically in the office. Shatik and Juanita have been and are available to the community, to the board members, from 9 to 5 via email, telephone, to answer any questions that you might have. So we are still here. We are still working. I want to thank the committees for having their meetings, for still being there at that same date, time, and place that we are familiar with. We are trying to make sure that we keep our meetings the same so we can be a constant in the community. So when we say we're going to be at our regular board meeting at 6, we want to be here for you all at 6. So thank you for tuning in and for the board members being so dedicated to everything that you're doing. And Karen, Ori, I know that a lot of folks have already said this, but from the board and on behalf of me, the Parks Committee that you so diligently serve, our prayers are with you with the loss of your sister. I know that you were going through a lot right now, as we all are, but I just want you to know that we are lifting you up, that we are thinking about you and your family. And for anyone who has lost someone, we are thinking of you and lifting you up in prayer. We've already welcomed our new board members, so we're excited about you. At the same time, we're sad about the board members that we lost. We had a really great team, so you're joining a great team. Carlene, I believe John Lynch, Ebony, Dominique, thank you for all of your hard work the past year, past 2 years, in John's case, past 8 years. Thank you for all that you have done. I love that Carlene is on the call. Thank you so much for still supporting us and for being an awesome resource for us. I hope that we continue that relationship, and with all our past board members, we definitely want to make sure that we are still talking and that you are still staying in the loop and supporting our beloved Harlem. Again, we want to also thank the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, Harlem Hospital, Metropolitan, St. Luke's, all of the hospitals, the hospital workers that are out there, the folks that were able to go out and do the standing ovation, the clap for Harlem Hospital. It was a beautiful and wonderful thing, something really to behold, something that really echoed our love for our healthcare workers and our frontline workers. So we will continue to support you in any way we can. I've been on several calls, just like everyone here, probably in Harlem, in the world, doing these Zoom calls. They are full of great information. Some of the things that we want to always focus on are small business, the summer youth program. These are things that are on our forefront of our minds. And when we get on these calls, it's important that there are strong to-dos that come out of these calls. So we want to make sure that that's happening, and that any way the community board can push things forward, can be a conduit for that. We want to make sure that that's happening. So if you see something, definitely say something to the board. If you see an issue, one thing that has been repeatedly brought up to me is the lack of social distancing. And, Brian Benjamin, Senator Brian Benjamin mentioned it. We've all talked about it, but we're talking about it. We need to figure out what works and what doesn't work so people can just get it at this point. That we need to do what we can to respect ourselves, to respect our elders, and to respect just life in general. I know we're talking about it's that fine line between freedom and your right of enjoyment. And what is that right of enjoyment when you are affecting someone else's right of enjoyment? So these are things that we're thinking about. And in a community that has been so hard hit, we're still waiting for those official numbers. So we're asking the politicians to give us the CB10 numbers. We care about those numbers. We want to know what's going on, because sometimes people need hard facts to figure out, hey, we've got to do something different. We have to pull back. We have to social distance. We have to wear a mask. So we're looking for those hard numbers of what are our COVID numbers, what is our hospitalization rate. The whole mantra is now we're on the decline, it's getting better, but what does that mean in retrospect to folks that are still passing away and contracting COVID? So these are the questions that we as community board members ask. These are the questions that we as constituents need to ask, and constantly ask our elected officials, what is going on? How can we do better? And do we have the tools to do that? So those are some things that we just need to remember. I think that is all I have, except I do just want to shout out some really great committee meetings that have been happening. The housing meeting, an excellent meeting. Charles, Lisa, so many people were able to join. So many questions were able to be answered. We had Madam Borough President on. We want to continue those conversations. If these things turn into a forum, a necessary higher conversation, we want to make sure that we're able to do that. Arts and culture, Mr. Rivers already mentioned it, but George is doing a phenomenal job. You're going to hear these spots from celebrities on the radio, brought to you by Harlem Arts Alliance and CB10. So we're excited to have that opportunity. The Education Committee, the Health Committee, Parks, all doing such due diligence at this time. So again, thank you so much. I will put my personal email into the chat. So if you see something, say something. Shatik is always available. Juanita is always available. So again, thank you so much. We're gonna move on to the district manager's report.
Thank you for that, Cicely. Thank you for your report. My name is Shatik Mitchell. For the new board members, I'm the District Manager, Community Board 10. Just want to say good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. And I'd also like to send my thoughts and prayers to our community members who have either suffered from or lost loved ones due to the coronavirus. I know that Madam Borough President Gail Brewer, she's left the call, but she had some kind words to say about me earlier on the call. So Athena, if you could take those, just my thanks back to her and let her know that I said thank you, and I appreciate her hard work as well. So for those who don't know, CB10, our district made the cover of the Daily News this morning, and not so much in a good way. The news story, as reported by the Daily News, basically spoke about 20 bodies that were wrapped in black bags that were carried out of the Harlem Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation, located at 30 West 138th Street. And this is a facility, a nursing facility that we've had issues with in the past. According to the state, they reported that only 5 people had died of COVID-19 at the site. This is the same center which is facing a lawsuit for letting a resident's body decay for 5 days in a storage closet in December. So this raises questions, like you said, Cicely, about the data on deaths and the accuracy of the information that we're receiving. The state disclosed an additional 1,700 people at nursing homes who are presumed to have died from coronavirus, bringing the total to at least 4,813 people since March 1st. And that number does not include residents that were transferred to a hospital, local hospitals before they died. So that means that the number is much greater than 4,813. So there has been very little transparency, and we don't know the real conditions that our loved ones are facing in these nursing centers. On top of that, the state has they've granted immunity from all civil suits filed during the pandemic. So if there were issues, that the family had, you couldn't even file a civil suit against the nursing home at this point. However, the state attorney general's office, they have launched an investigation into the matter, and they have a hotline that you can call to file confidential complaints. That number is 823-249-8499. And once I get more information on that, the hotline as well as the website information, I'll post that to our Facebook and Instagram, and I'll also send it out on our e-blast. That leads us to my next point. I know that you made, Cicely, you were talking about social distancing. The number of deaths right now, it seems to be decreasing slightly. It's not, such a major decrease, that we're ready back open for business. But the new cases that we're seeing is the most alarming thing. And that's actually, the cases are an uptick amongst older people of color. And these people who has been affecting have the ones that have been sitting in their homes. They've been at home and they're still getting sick. So I'm gonna read you a few statistics, and this is for the state and city. So the preliminary data submitted by 113 hospitals over the last 3 days show that most new admissions have mostly been staying home. They're predominantly in New York City, which is at 57%, and 18% are in Long Island and people of color. Most of them are older and non-essential employees. 66% were admitted from their own residences. Of the New York City hospitalizations, 90% have not been traveling by car service, personal automobile, mass transit, or they haven't even been walking around. They've been doing their work from home, and apparently they weren't going out much. So this fact reaffirms the need for precautionary measures for personal safety and public health, including wearing a mask and using hand sanitizer. So these are elderly people who are, in the house, they haven't gone out, they haven't traveled, and they're still getting sick. And this is showing the increase or the bump in the numbers for the new COVID patients. Which leads us to the next point on enforcement and social distancing guidelines. I know Derek spoke about it, Cicely, you spoke about it, and Brian, about the way the law enforcement is handling these instances. According to Dermot Shea, he's the commissioner of NYPD, he said that you should look at these on an individual case. They're basically stating that, there's 2 instances right now that's being reported of NYPD abuse, but that's not the rule per se. They're saying that, that's just here and there. They said the one thing that's constant in the videos that you're seeing is that everyone in the video is not social distancing. And then when I look at the videos, the one constant thing I see is that the people that are being harassed and brutalized are Black and brown bodies. So, I would beg to differ with the commissioner on that point. But I would also like to say that if you look at the statistics, that are happening with our elderly people, and they're saying that they're staying in the house and they're still getting sick, that means our younger people that's on the street, they need to actually be inside more, because I know that the weather's getting warmer and people are gonna be out and about. But if that means that our grandparents, our parents, our aunties and uncles are gonna suffer and die because we don't wanna get, fresh air, that's something that we definitely need to consider. Lastly, I'm just going to review something that I addressed in the executive committee meeting, and that's the mayor's office, the task force that he created on racial inclusion and equity. So the first task force will be led by First Lady Shalane McCray and the Deputy Mayor for Strategic Policy, Phil Thompson. There will be separate task force focused on reopening each industry, and there will be a preliminary report from this task force, which is due on June 1st. So these are 4 points that the mayor's plan focuses on. Step 1 is keep protecting our public hospitals, and he will continue to fund hospitals by bringing testing right to our hard-hit communities. As you know, we have testing centers at Sydenham, as well as St. Nicholas houses. Just was advised today, we also have them at Ryan Health as well as Harlem Hospital. So the more centers that we have, the more testing we will have available. The second was to launch a massive public awareness campaign. And me and Cicely, we were on that call today with Brian Benjamin, the borough president's office, and other elected officials, just to speak about how the $10 million funding is going to be allocated and how they're going to get organizations that's in the community that are already doing the work, administering the masks, talking about social distancing, how we can be participant in the public awareness campaign. Step 3 is to do grassroots outreach, and that's what the premise of this call was about. And lastly was to expand phone to clinician programs. So for people that are, in the house, they may be disabled or elderly, they'll be able to call on the phone and have access to a health professional. And for the sake of time, I think I will just cut my report short at this point, unless anyone has any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shatik.
So
Thank
I
you
have a
for
comment,
all the work
Cicely.
that you're doing. Oh, Charles, I saw your comment. You can go ahead and if you want to raise it now.
So I just want to, just point out, Shatik, because this relates to housing, and I'll abbreviate my report later as the chair of the Housing Committee. Let us please remember that when you're talking about those seniors and others staying at home, who are they staying at home with? There are multiple families living in one apartment with, with all sorts of people who are going in and out. So I just wanted to point out that, while I appreciate your report, it's kind of ludicrous to talk about seniors staying at home in a NYCHA development when there are 3 levels of families living in that same development that are going in and out. And the exposure, therefore, it's not like me. I'm 71 years old. So I have the benefit in the Graham Court of being able to stay in and stay pretty protected. But I know that there are families, and you know that too, we talk about this all the time, when there are 3 generations of people living in the same apartment, and there are people going in and out. So I think those numbers, in terms of, hey, there are seniors staying at home, but they're still being exposed. No, the exposure is, not just related to COVID-19, but there's food issues, there are deliveries of food and things of that sort. So I just wanted to point out that we have multiple families living together. That statistic, in my opinion, is somewhat skewed by the reality of what we have in terms of our housing crisis. Our community, like East Harlem and Central Harlem and West Harlem and Washington Heights, have forced people to live together under these circumstances. So whether you have a 1-year-old asymptomatic, a 10-year-old asymptomatic that's living with grandma, and along the daughters and the children, when you made that comment, it just said to me that we need to be a little bit more conscious about the realities of how people are living. Seniors are not living by themselves. They are living in multiple, scenarios where, they are being exposed to people in their very households, who have to get out and go to work every day and support them, So I just wanted to raise that point. It's just really, in my opinion, a question of the housing crisis that exists today.
I just want to say that based on what you said, I think the point to be made is for like you said, the young people, the generations that are under the seniors, for them to be cognizant and for them to practice social distancing and to do all that they can do, because it's the elders of the senior citizens that they're affecting. So if the younger generations could, on their travels during the day, if they can practice social distancing, wash their hands and, do the things they're supposed to do, so the seniors won't have to suffer and die.
No, that's true, Shatik, because even governors and others who are states are reopening. One governor in Georgia, for example, said, you want to reopen, but what about when you go home and you're infecting your grandparent and others because you decided it was safe for you to go out, but you're bringing that virus back into the household. So all I was really saying is that, asymptomatic, is one thing, but we are dealing with situations, and I would love to hear from other board members and others who are living in those kind of situations. No one's living alone, really. That's a disparate, reality, that we're having multiple generations of people that are living together, and the potential for infecting and reinfecting is not about the outside, but exactly what's happening inside one person's home.
Thank you, Charles. And that definitely highlights so much about what's going on with people's living arrangements, and it points squarely to economics. Economics is a key issue in how anybody is able to survive and live with COVID, or just in general. So thank you for that. Also, Adrian, yes, it is important that with food deliveries, another common way of contracting COVID is not properly wiping things down. So we have to make sure that we are doing that, and that people have the materials and the cleaning products available to do those things when they bring those groceries or food deliveries into the house. Thank you for bringing that up, Adrian. We have one more comment from board member Marcus Wilson, and then we need to move into our committee reports. When we move into our committee reports, please try to stick to the 1 to 2 minutes per speaker. Okay, really quickly, Marcus, you have a comment?
Hi, Cicely. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is better discussed during the parks portion of the meeting, but I know, everyone expects, social distancing to go outside, and you see where people are downtown, and they have the open streets available. And I went online, I looked it up, and there's literally the open streets go from like 89th Street and it jumps to Washington Heights. So there's none in Harlem right now. So I don't know if the open streets we can look to for the parks to get something set up. I tried to get something set up on our block to have it shut off where people can actually have social distancing outside, have an entire block or 2 blocks where they can actually, communicate or, congregate.
Shatik, did you have something on that very briefly?
Yeah, so this past week, we were in contact with the mayor's office, and they asked the board members for suggestions on open streets. And I did take, I think about 5 board members responded, and I submitted those recommendations to the mayor's office. So I have yet to hear back. I'm pretty sure they're still being considered. But once I hear back, we will definitely know what streets in Harlem will be available. I know Charles recommended St. Nicholas Avenue between 135th and 125th Street. And someone else recommended between 110th and 125th Street on Morningside Park. So from what I've seen, they're looking to open up blocks that are close proximity to parks.
Thank you. And I know that some of the board members did not see that because it came in really quickly, I think, Shatik, and that people had to get back to you within like an hour or 2. They didn't give us any type of leeway with that. That's another thing that we need to make sure that our elected officials and those agencies are giving the community time to respond. It doesn't count if you give us 5 seconds and say you sent something and they didn't hear from us. So we just want to make sure that we're able to address that. Is that correct, Shatik, of what happened?
Yes, that is correct. They literally sent me that email probably about 11 a.m. and they said we need responses back by 3 p.m. the latest. So
yeah, so that's unacceptable. So thank you so much for that. Thanks for that question, Marcus. We're going to move on to the committee reports. Again, we're sticking to the 1 to 2 minutes. Thank you. Arts and culture, do you have anything today?
Who's that, for George?
Yes, George.
Hold up, let me take them off. Hold up, George, you muted. Wait.
I stepped away. I was talking to my mom for a second. Could you repeat what you said?
Just asking if you had anything to report for arts and culture.
Yeah, I am working on a new PSA with Anthony Hamilton, and I don't have an update on what it will say at this point, but I will circle back to you and give you that information. It should be coming in about another 2 weeks, and me and Harlem Community Board 10 and Harlem Arts Alliance is working on it.
Thank you so much, George, for that great
Right.
update. And we look forward to hearing the PSA announcement, the PSA thing.
Okay.
Echo Dev, I don't know if Jennifer is on here. Chanel, I don't believe is on either. Hearing none, we will go on and go to the next report, Education, Youth, and Libraries.
Hi, we do have a letter, a letter of support on the agenda tonight. So I just want to say that if there's anyone out there that has a student or kid or knows someone that is still in need of technology, you can dial 311 and ask for an iPad. And also the mayor decided that, I guess that they got such a big donation of iPads that if you don't attend a district school, but you have a student who is special needs, you can also get an iPad. If the child goes to a private school or an international school or anything, and they live in the city, they are also now eligible to get an iPad by calling 311. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Health and Human Services.
Yes, thank you. Michelle Booker is not here, and as you know, I've been out on sick leave. But let me say to the health committee members who are there, and I heard Don was in there. I didn't hear Carol Dixon, but they've done, and Dr. Smith, they've done a yeoman's job. Just let me say, all the health issues was brought forth by the health committee of CB10, so you can be very proud of this committee. Even in my absence, I spearheaded the call about what had happened in our center here, the Harlem Center, from a call from a constituent. And so from that, Dr. Smith and the committee worked on putting the letter together. As you heard, Borough President, I signed the letter, of course, as the chair, but they did the work on that. So I want to give them kudos and say thanks very much for carrying on. I will be back in full swing beginning at our meeting on the 18th, I believe that's our meeting date. And so I would ask that we support the letter that is going to the governor, because there's a lot of inequities. And to me, at this point, the governor and the State Commission of Health is at fault. And so we need to call it out. Again, from Community Board 10 on the census, I have been working diligently with members of the committee count to make sure that we come up. We can't not fail in Harlem. I've reached out to our Lennox Terrace president, asked Tim to do his work, and I will be reaching out to the Esplanade Garden president to see how we can get in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dukes. Wonderful job, Health Committee. And we look forward to hearing more about your letter of support or a letter of concern for the Harlem Center of Nursing and Rehabilitation, which is a voting item for us tonight. Thank you for that. Transportation, Historic Preservation, and Landmarks. That is my committee. I am the interim chair for that committee. We don't have much to report, but we do have an update on city bikes, which we will be continuing that discussion in our next meeting. So the last report was that we had two especially controversial sites in CB10. One was going to be placed in the Dorrance Brooks historic area on 138th Street over there by St. Nicholas Park. So that site is no longer under consideration. So we did win that battle. Yay for that. And it is a win in that they were able to move the station, the bike station, across the street where it should have been originally at St. Nicholas Park. So that's where it is. The reason why, there's a number of reasons why, but the main reason was a lack in funding for that particular location. So they moved it across the street because it was a lot easier, less construction, because in the Dorrance Brooks area, it had to be done a certain way. And without the additional funding, they could not do that. So it did move to St. Nicholas Park across the street there. However, they are bent on making sure that we have 24 city bike stations in our area that's above 135th. So the second, the new proposal is at 136th and Frederick Douglass Boulevard on the uptown side of the street. So on that first corner, I think there's like a Malcolm Limo company there. And inside the block on 136, right there when you're turning the corner, they're proposing a bike station that will take up parking. It'll take up 5 spaces. So we are again reiterating our dissatisfaction with that. Everyone knows that's a Harlem resident who has a car, who has seen anybody circling the block several times at night, morning, whenever, alternate type parking, that parking is a essential thing for us up there. And we do not want any spots that, bike stations that will take away additional parking. So we are asking for, we're going to write another letter to them. We wrote a letter the first time, we're writing another letter, just reiterating our displeasure with the new site. The new site was just elected last week, I believe. And DOT did put a city bike map out last week that went live last week. So we published the link. I believe the link is still operational, so you can see all the new planned city bike sites. So those sites, although they're new, they didn't give us much time to actually give an opinion. So I've already talked to them. I've put my displeasure on the record. We're definitely going to do a formal letter. The site that was taking parking on 142nd and Adam Clayton Powell, that's still a go for them. That's still a no for us. So I am putting those things in a letter. We will be talking about it at the transportation meeting, but the installation, despite COVID, despite all these things going on, City Bike is moving forward, and they plan to start the installation of these bikes early May. So now, basically, any city bike stations that are planned near parks or schools, they'll start in May, and then the other bike stations will be probably put in around June. So for more information, definitely come to our meeting.
Cicely,
yes.
Just can I add one small short thing to that? Because behind the scenes, we did not get a chance to report back to you and Shatik that we were on the phones with DOT, both Natalie and I, and getting the Dorrance site removed. But more importantly, this whole conversation about coming to you for additional input, they weren't going to do that necessarily. And we forced their hand in saying that they could not move forward to do these sites without making sure that you all were on the ground saying yes to it. And the whole notion about removal of parking spaces versus sites that we think are accessible versus other issues, I need you all, as you said, to continue thinking strategically about that. Because one thing that they do is say, well, we can't put it here, so you have to let us put it here. So I know you're being thoughtful, but I just wanted to underscore how important in a short turnaround that your input is on that.
Thank you, thank you. So we are definitely, I did have a conversation, thank you for that, Athena, for going to bat for us. I did have a conversation with our rep, Jennifer. So I am on the record voicing our displeasure about it, but we are writing a formal letter. So thank you for underscoring that we need to do that. Thank you for that. Also, really quickly, just want to highlight the funding for this City Bike. I believe it's through Lyft. Is that correct? The funding for a City Bike. So it's not totally out of city funds. It is through Lyft. That's one of the important reasons why the money has to be spent, why they have to start making moves on putting these city bikes in, because it's end of the year funding, and that money has to go out or they'll lose the funding for those sites. So that's one of the things they expressed to me,
Yes.
reasons why the urgency.
Yes, and also they said that they don't have the flexibility often because of that direct funding attached to it. Because we even asked, are there ways to rebrand it so that it doesn't look so hideous in the community? And could we take off the name City Bike? Could we do other things? Could we make it more cultural? And they kept coming back to the fact that this is a funded initiative and the city depends on those revenues. So it is a balance that we have to strike.
And just really quickly, I don't want to take too much time, but we are, Athena, and thank you for taking time to even talk about this discussion, is if they must put these 24 city bikes up here, what are the funding plans and the membership plans that'll make it more accessible for the people that they want to ride these bikes? So I know that they have the $5 program, but you have to have a credit card to be able to take advantage of that $5 a month program if you're living in housing. So that also can be a roadblock to that. So if possible, you know, we would work with you all to talk about how they make it more accessible for everyday folks to be able to take advantage of it. Thank you. Okay. All right. We are going to move on to housing. Charles?
Okay, let me unmute myself. Thank you. I saw a very good question actually relating to housing from Terry about the scaffolding that's existing in front of multiple developments. I live in the Graham Court, and I have the Graham Court. I have the people who were moved from A. Philip Randolph Park. We have the former Make My Cake HDFC, I'll call it, who has scaffolding up. And don't mind saying that I also have scaffolding for my beloved church at FCBC. So on those three corners, it has been unconscionable. So thank you, Terry, for mentioning that. Housing, real simple. Thank you all for, as the borough president indicated, for being on the housing and joint land use call Monday before last. There were so many points that we're still actually putting together the minutes of that meeting. It was an incredible meeting with so many different things. The real question, you know, is, of course, you know, do we have any initiatives from all our elected officials? I see that Michelle Booker has joined us, you know, from the Congress, you know, that's going to talk about tenant relief, but you can't have tenant relief without landlord relief. You know, we have members of our community. I know the president of the 135th Street Block Association is on this call, and they're talking about private homeowners. We're talking about HDFCs. So Athena, with your help with the borough president, I don't know where we are going to ultimately land up, but I know that the housing committee is so many different things. I want to thank Donna Gill. I want to thank, you know, Lisa Downing. We've been on calls every day trying to figure out what, when, and how will the, you know, the governor, you know, who has issued the executive order about, you know, the fact that there are non-evictions, but, you know, there's so much fear with respect to what's going to happen when those, you know, moratoriums, you know, run out, whether it's on the federal side or the state side. And it's just an everyday scenario. Not-for-profits, affordable housing, you know, organizations are struggling. My own personal affordable housing, you know, portfolio, Greater Harlem Housing, we had a 60% collection in April. We're expecting that'll probably be around 25 to 30%, you know, but yet we don't have any forbearance or anything relating to, you know, the fact that we have to pay mortgages, we have to pay taxes, and we have to pay utilities and all of the rest of the things, and we have to pay, you know, our employees. So it's a work in progress. So I think it's too much to be able to even talk about further, and I want to stay within the 2-minute limit, and I'll stop at that point.
Thank you, Charles. I believe there's a if you could answer this question. I don't know, you can answer it now or save it for your housing meeting. There's a question, are they going through with the privatization of Harlem River houses?
So the question was, again, just repeat that question again.
Are they going through with the privatization of Harlem River houses?
Yeah, and everything that, that's an excellent question, and it's something we'll take up at our next, housing committee meeting for the person who asked the question. But, I believe that everything we've been talking about NYCHA privatization, those private projects, are proceeding. But I'll investigate that a little further.
Thank you, Charles. And I believe we have one last question. I don't know about the housing courts, but I know that the criminal courts are not open. There are some judges that are starting to review motions electronically, but it's hard to serve them, physically at this point. But I know some courts are individually up to that judge starting to receive motions and paperwork. But Charles, do you know about the housing courts?
Yeah, so we know that from what we're, and I read the, have the connections with Judge Tingling, who are on our weekly calls. Athena, I know you're on some of those calls with Judge Tingling and others. And, he's a county clerk and also, somebody who's leading us. So there are limited, housing applications. What we're concerned about, is the kind of, usual ways in which people are talking about. So one of the things that we're addressing is the connection between housing court and civil court, because we expect that depending on where the governor goes and the mayor goes with the, city council's proposal, and I know, Athena, you've been working on this really, really intentionally. The belief is that they're going to try to prevent, evictions. The city council is proposing going into 2021, but the civil courts will open. And the belief is that you can, of course, have that dual situation. You can go to housing court for an eviction, but you can go to civil court for a judgment. And we're trying to make sure that we're covering both bases. So our proposals will come out and probably in the next meeting, that we want to be able to say that the city council's proposal is no evictions by the city marshal or sheriffs, but most importantly, no, litigation, should occur, that relates to the underlying contractual scenario. Remember, every lease is a contract, so you can go to civil court and sue and get a judgment, and that will affect people's long-term credit and ability to remain in their housing or get new housing. So that's kind of like, Cicely, you and I have talked about this. That's the duality of where we're going with future, housing community board resolutions.
Yes. Thank you, Charles.
Great question.
Thank you. All right, and just an update, says housing court located in Harlem is closed, but tentatively set up to open on May 15th. Of course, that is subject to any type of extension of the stay-at-home order. But thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Let me see. Let's go on to land use and then parks and recreation.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I don't have much to say. We had a great meeting, Charles and I, the Monday before last, and we're still trying to reach out to various elected officials to see how we can get some support around homeownership, owners who are facing foreclosure, and also small landlords who have no protection currently. I know Athena in her office has been working diligently around the Carthage Marcus Garvey Park development, and they continue to have meetings weekly, sometimes daily, around how to resolve the myriad of issues that continue with that project. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, everyone. This is Karen Ori, and I'd just like to begin by thanking everyone, Madam Chair and Madam Borough President, and all of the CB10 family for all of your kind and thoughtful expressions of condolence. Your love is definitely felt. I'd just like to move on with Parks and Recreation. We had 4 in-kind capital projects that were presented by Central Park Conservancy. They're asking for a resolution for 2 of those projects, and we'll be voting on that this evening. We also move forward in developing a subcommittee to address the issue around developing some sort of exhibit in Central Park with respect to the exonerated 5. So we're moving forward with that project. And also, we had a discussion, we have an ongoing discussion on the waterfront, our waterfront area. And we are looking for feedback, resiliency measures. And this is with respect to the New York City Vision 2020 plan. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Public safety. I know Charles said he might be on the phone. Charles Johnson. Okay.
Cicely, I'm sorry, this is Karen.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that we have rescheduled the meeting to Monday, May 26th for the next Parks and Recreation Committee meeting.
Thank you, Karen. We'll definitely update the calendar to reflect that.
Thank you.
If Charles joins later, he can give his public safety committee report. Just really quickly, just monitoring the chat. For any organizations or groups of folks or just anyone who is interested in offering a service to the community and talking about that, please go to that, your interest, their committee meeting. I see there's someone here to talk about mental health. Thank you for that. And thank you for offering your services. We do have a Health and Human Services committee. So that will be the 3rd Monday of the month. So please feel free to join that meeting. The chair is Dr. Hazel Dukes, and she will definitely give you the forum and the space to talk if the agenda allows. Thank you so much for that. Also, if Shatik could put his information in the chat so that you will be able to email him if you need some additional information on hooking up with a committee that you're interested in. Okay. And we're going to move on to the presentation of voting items. Really quickly, there is a question for you, Lisa, if you can answer. It's a land use question. The Carthage project needs to go through a ULURP if it's going to be billed outside of a contract. How is this not happening? Is that something that we can address now, or we should talk about it in our land use meeting, which is usually the 3rd Thursday?
Yeah, it's something that, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's something that Julius and I talk about all the time. When the planning commissioner came to our meeting a year ago, he said it did not require a ULURP project process due to past history. You know, this project was an Abyssinian development project prior, so all the paperwork for that project had already been done and that it wasn't required. If Julius would like to write a letter to the planning department authorized by Community Board 10 to further probe, he can do so, but they're in the process of demolition, so I think it may be too late.
Thank you, Lisa. If there's any additional questions about that, I believe we can follow up in our land use meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. I do see from Ms. Seabrook a question about a resolution for their sidewalk. I do understand there has been quite a few meetings about that. So Ms. Seabrook, I will contact you and Shatik will contact you about how we follow up about that. But thank you.
Cicely, can I comment on that
Yes,
from the
please.
Housing Committee?
Yes.
We've heard from, I guess COVID-19 has just really kind of, Ms. Seabrook kind of abbreviated the process. I wish we could have done it sooner, but Housing is looking to do a resolution in support of what the 135th Street Block Association is requesting. We've asked the EDC, Economic Development Corporation, to weigh in, and we've talked to DOT. We just haven't done the resolution yet, so we're a little behind from the Housing Committee, but we're going to have a very comprehensive resolution, you know, for the board to consider for next month.
Thank you, Charles.
And also the next meeting is going to be a joint land use housing committee, and that's going to be on May 21st at 6:30.
Definitely update that to reflect the calendar to reflect that. Thank you. So moving on to presentation of voting items, education, youth, and libraries, we have a letter of support summer youth employment program. Let me just say that this letter, we appreciate all the hard work that has gone into it. And Deborah, are you ready to present it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Cicely. I'd like to start by thanking Stephanie Palmer for all of her work on this letter, so that we had a great item to present, and all the rest of the committee who helped make suggestions to make this letter the great letter that it is. And the way that this came about is after Manhattan Board President Gail Brewer had that wonderful forum on the Summer Youth Program, we had our committee meeting, and we just felt that this was such an important issue and that would affect so many youth in our community that we needed to add our voice to the people who were saying that this is something that must happen in some way, shape, or form this summer. And so I think that the committee has done a great job in presenting an item that will represent the community board well. And if anybody has questions, and I hope that you guys will support it. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Does anyone have any questions? I believe all the board members should have received a copy of all these letters in your email. Okay. Thank you so much, Deborah. Health and Human Services, letter of support, Harlem Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation. Michelle, are you on?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I said earlier, that Michelle Booker was going to be.
I am on.
Okay, but I want to again thank Dr. Smith. I called Michelle Booker like 10 o'clock in the morning with my outrage. And of course, she had the meeting, presided over the meeting, and Dr. Smith and board member Dixon, along with Michelle, did an excellent job. So kudos for carrying on. But as I said, it's your community board 10 that has again raised this issue. As you know, Madam Chair, I guess now about a week ago, and in today's paper, this is the same company that we faced, and when we put an advisory committee together, now we do advisory committee. So I think that and with trying to go out and get these people out of our community. I ask for support of the letter.
Thank you, Dr. Dukes. Michelle, did you have anything to add to the letter or conversation about the letter?
Again, I just would like to thank everyone on the Health and Human Services Committee, as well as Shatik, for drafting the letter and pulling all of our ideas together. I do just want to let everyone know that this is extraordinarily imperative that this Harlem Center for Nursing really has an investigation by the AG, and and with protocols coming down from the governor's office. Even today in the news, there was report that there were over 20 bodies being removed from the center. And this is beyond what happened in December with the woman's mother, and it's just a chronic problem with this facility. And all lives matter, including Black lives in nursing homes. And so we just really need to just push and make sure that this, regardless whether it's a pandemic or not, that every life matters and lives are treated with dignity upon being deceased. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that, Michelle and Dr. Dukes. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
It's just horrible.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to know, how are they still in business? Like, with this kind of thing happening, and to even know that somebody was found in a closet, decayed, and already deceased. Now we're hearing 20 bodies being removed from that same facility. How are they still in business? That's my only question. Sorry.
Well, this is Adrian. I actually put an article in the chat for those who are, didn't get an opportunity to read some things that are happening. So that was the article about the nursing home. And it is really unfortunate that this is happening. And a letter from you guys, a collective letter, would be, really great it's right in our district. I don't know, I'm just saying.
I think one of the things I wanted to add, Madam Chair, Cicely, is that when this issue was first being discussed, that one of the ways that we could be a support, and Madam Hazel Dukes, is to identify the sort of regulations and the oversight bodies for nursing homes. Most are not always aware that it's a state level issue in terms of the Department of Health and others that regulate these facilities. So our advocacy has to continue at that level. In addition, we all have recommitted ourselves to monitoring and giving oversight and the simple thing of providing PPEs, which we've been on the ground. I think you've already heard us report on having done that. But I think ultimately, this is a trend that's happening around the country. It's not just limited to New York or to Harlem. And so I think we can also garner additional strength working in coalition, which we are. And this is the beginning of that. And you have the electeds, Brian, Gail, Inez, Espaillat, all of us were on previous calls, and now with the addition of the AG's office, there's nothing we can't do. Finally, just that we also did a press conference in front of Isabella Nursing Home, which was another one that had identified lots of bodies and things were said. But one of the things that one of my colleagues also shared, and Natalie and I talked about this, is finding the balance. We're outraged here in Harlem about these kinds of atrocities, especially when they're not being transparent about the data. But we also know the balance in it is that there are still lots of essential workers in these facilities that are still feeling fear and like their lives are at stake and not safe. And they're putting their lives on the line every day to come to try to help. So at the same time, and they're Black and brown people, right? And so we have to find the balance between our advocacy and closing down places that need to be closed down, and at the same time making sure that those Black and brown people who are the workers, that they are not vilified either. And the people who are running these centers like Allure and others, that they be held accountable, So we should just make sure our advocacy is just that crystal clear.
Let me just say thanks to you, Athena, because you were one of the ones that I called when I was outraged. And you did respond to my call, and the borough president did respond. But you're absolutely right. Cecily was on so she's very familiar familiar with it. I was chair. Christine Curry was on that. So we got to get back and do our due diligence. I agree with you wholeheartedly that the advocacy that we got to do is these people who own these facilities. Right after we got very much involved with it, they hired an African American woman who came before our board and there are minutes on that, and we told her our concerns and everything. So we got to go back and do our due diligence. As Charles Powell said, so many things, and you know this after I'm on the call all day long, bugging everybody. But there's so much happening right now, but we got to do our priorities. And I'm going to be bringing that before the health committee, how we prioritize what we need to do and the way we do it. You're absolutely right. Most of the people that work in these facilities are black and brown people, and we're not about adding anybody else to the unemployment roll.
This is Cheryl Smith. I was actually going to get to just that point. I think that we need to be clear in our advocacy and targeted and strategic in our advocacy, because just like Dr. Fuchs said, the majority of people in those facilities are black and brown people and are really employed. And we want to force the administration to do the right thing. In addition to that, we need facilities in our neighborhood. So it's not about the fact that we don't want the facilities. We want to force people that come and provide services in our community to do it in the right way and to have an understanding that we are watching and that we want them to have high standards, not just basic standards, that we want high standards. So I think that's really important for us to be able to hold the administrators' feet to the fire on all levels, clinical levels, administrative levels. It is critical.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists, and everyone on the call. These are all good points. Christina Curry did have a comment. She says, as of now, nursing homes are not allowing independent living centers into their facilities, citing COVID-19. We are relying on relatives to tell us what is going on. And I believe, Christine, just like Dr. Dukes had said, try to get access to the center prior to COVID-19 and was denied access at that time. So it is an ongoing situation where it seems like we definitely need more oversight and an investigation into it. We used to have as Dr. Dukes mentioned, CB10 used to have a nursing home committee, which I did serve on, but had to be disbanded once it was sold to Allure. So we no longer have that access either. So that is definitely a conversation that we need to have, and hopefully this joint letter, and with the support of Manhattan Borough President, the Attorney General will be able to move forward and figure out what is going on in this facility.
So I'm gonna drop it into the chat. The telephone number where you can file a confidential complaint against the nursing homes. I'm gonna put it in the chat now.
So I have one comment.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the voting. Oh.
No. Go ahead and move on. I just wanted to be able to say that one, I want to thank Christina Curry for all of what she continues to do in terms of the support for Americans with disabilities. But most importantly, I'd like to hear at some future meeting a report from Christina as to how COVID-19 has affected our, very, very cherished, community of Americans with disabilities. And so thank you, Christina, for everything that you continue to do with our community board and the Harlem community overall. I'd love to see a report next time from Christina.
Thank you. We have one last voting item to cover. It is the resolution for New York City Park, Central Park Conservancy Garden and Dairy Access Path renovation project. We did present it at the executive committee where it did pass. There are just two projects that are addressing this. As CB10 does border Central Park, along with those other community boards, we do have to vote on any changes done inside the park. The first change is the Conservatory Garden that's located at between 104 and 106th Street, west of 5th Avenue. And then the Dairy Project, which is, it's been characterized as a Victorian garden, and it's at 65th Street and serves as a general visitor center and provides public information for the designs of Central Park. Both of those two projects involve making it more accessible, including just some fatigue that has been put on those facilities. Some of these sites are as old as from 1895, and they just needed to be upgraded. Are there any questions on this resolution? These two projects being the Conservatory Garden and the Dairy. Hearing none, we will move on to our business session. So if Deborah can prepare to do a second roll call for our voting items, being that if there's any controversy, once this second roll call has been done, everyone will say if they're present. We'll move into voting. That will also be done by common consent. If there is a disagreement or a nay, please just make that known.
Okay.
And unmute yourselves.
Okay. So we're going to start the second roll call now. Cicely Harris.
Take themselves off of mute.
Yes. Everyone is able to unmute themselves. Thank you, Shatik.
But should mute themselves as soon as they give their
hear their name
response.
called. Yes.
Yes,
thank you, Charles.
Yeah,
Thank you, Charles. Cicely Harris.
Present.
Marquise Harrison.
Present.
Charles Powell.
Present.
Joshua Clinton.
Present.
Thank you. Deborah Yates, present. Kevin Bitterman.
Present.
Kevin Bitterman.
Present.
Thank you. Stephanie Palmer.
Present.
Tahani Abushi.
Present.
Omar Arias. No, absent.
You said present.
Oh, thank you. Michelle Booker.
Present.
Deneen Brown Blackman.
Here.
Thank you. Dan Clark.
Present.
Oh, present. Thank you. Jamila Clark.
Present.
Christina Curry is present. Karen Dixon.
Excused.
Excused. Michael Downey. Absent. Lisa Downing.
Present.
Thank you. Hazel Dukes.
Present.
Thank you. Troy Gathers is absent. Donna Gill.
Present.
Deborah Gilliard.
Hey, Deborah, Michael Downey is on the call. May I want to call him again?
Michael Downey.
He said he's having a problem with his audio, so he wrote it in the chat that he's present.
Okay, thank you. Deborah Gilliard is not here. Stanley Gleaton. Delcinia Glover.
Present.
George Harrell.
Present.
Karen Horry.
Present.
Victoria Horsford. Absent. Charles Johnson. Is Charles on the call? No. Safia Mann is not on the call. Tamara Martin. Tamara Martin.
Sarah was on.
She was. Crystal McKay.
Present.
Thank you. Kamara Milford.
Kamaria, present.
Kamaria, thank you for that. Kamaria Milford, thank you. Thomas Moore.
Present.
Mari Moss.
Present.
LaShonda Myers. Absent. Barbara Nelson.
Present.
Africa O's. Africa. Absent. Derek Perkison.
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes. Nadine Pinkett.
Present.
Jennifer Prince. Not here. Stacey Ramos. Tiffany Reeves.
Present.
Thank you. Milan Reed.
Milan, present.
Milan. Thank you, Milan. Jerica Richardson.
Present.
Thank you. Aisha Ramani. Cheryl Smith.
Present.
Shadon Smith.
Present.
Keith Taylor. Chanel Washington. Marcus Wilson.
Present.
And Terry Wisdom.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the second roll call. We will now move forward with the voting items.
Deborah, do we have quorum?
We do.
Thank you.
The first voter item will be the letter of support for the Summer Youth Program from the Education, Youth, and Libraries Committee. Do I have a motion to accept the letter by common consent?
I move that we accept the letter by common consent.
And there's a second?
I second.
If there is no objection, the motion carries. Is there any
discussion?
Is there any discussion? Thank you.
Just that this affects over 30,000 people in our community, and we already have an over 20% poverty rate in our community. I don't need to say this, everybody already knows this, that's on the board. We have over 20% poverty rate, it's going to be worse after COVID-19, so this is crucial that we support this.
Thank you, Mari. So the Summer Youth Employment Program letter has passed. Thank you. The next letter is the Health and Human Services letter of support for the Harlem Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation. Do I have a motion to accept the letter by common consent?
I move to accept the letter by common consent.
And has it been seconded?
Seconded.
Any discussion? If there's no objection, the motion carries. Thank you. The final letter is the Parks and Recreation letter. Conservatory Garden and Dairy Access Path Resolution. Can I have a motion to accept the letter by common consent?
I move to accept the letter as by common consent.
Second. And I have, it's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? If there's no objection, the motion carries. Thank you. So all three letters have carried. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cicely, real quick.
Yes.
I forgot to mention, Deborah, Keith Taylor should be marked as excused because he's currently deployed on assignment I just received the email to that effect. I knew previously, but I just remember. So if we could mark him as excused for this meeting.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Shatik.
Thank you so much for that update, Shatik, and everyone for passing the letters. Just a little side note on the Summer Youth Employment Program letter. That is one letter that we are sending as from CB10, but all the community board chairs have decided to send a separate letter that we all will sign as a sign of unity that is affecting not just CB10, but all of Manhattan and the other boroughs. So thank you for your support on that letter. Any old business? Okay, hearing none. Any new business?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, old business or new business, whichever you want to call it. When it comes to economic development, I think that COVID-19 has brought out a lot of disparities or gaps, if you will, in government service to the community. I think this shows that we need to find ways to be able to track how our businesses are being supported and how we need to streamline services to our businesses. So like, for example, the PPP, there have been reports out that African-American businesses have not been able to receive PPP, and that affects our community exceedingly. Melba has been, from Melba's, the restaurant that we all know in our community, has been on MSNBC and various other news channels talking about how this has affected her being able to keep employees employed. So making sure that we're able to help facilitate and acknowledge services to our community, especially when it comes to resources that are going to help businesses recover after COVID-19, that is crucial that we need to be able to do from the community board standpoint.
Can I just add that the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone received $4 million for PPP and is struggling to find viable businesses who qualify. So if you guys know qualified businesses who are in need or nonprofit organizations, please reach out to them.
Thank you, Lisa. Do you have any contact information for them that you want to put in the chat, or should they just come, should interested businesses come to the land use meeting? Okay, Lisa, we'll be sure to follow up with you to be able to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can email me, or you can go to the UMES website, and I'm sure they have a info@umes.org email address, and they're checking it regularly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa and Mari. Just really one quick announcement that was put into the chat from a former board member, Don Jones, former board member of Manhattan Community Board 10. So sorry to hear that your second cousin, Nanny Towns, 93 years of age, went home to be with the Lord early Sunday morning and lived in Lenox Terrace for over 50 years. So sorry to hear that, and our prayers are with you, Don, a former board member of Community Board 10. At this time, are there any announcements? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Michelle?
Yes, I had my hand up.
Oh,
I wanted to just give a short, some information about the PPE.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So from our end, the congressman had worked with the Empowerment Zone and other organizations to support small businesses in the district. So we were happy to learn that the Harlem School of the Arts did receive funding from the PPP, which is good news. We don't know how much, but that they did receive. The other thing that I want to let people know is that businesses in our district are receiving funding, but because they are closed, they're not really sure what they should do with the funds. So I welcome those businesses that have these types of questions to reach out to the Congressman's office so that we can help do a deep dive on what the steps they should take, because now people are getting the money, but the businesses are closed. And so they want the loan to turn into a grant. And the way to do that is to have 75% of employees or staff receiving support from those funds. So we're trying to figure out how we can support in that manner. Hello?
Yes, sorry, I was actually going to say Columbia University SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, is actually giving counseling to small businesses in regards to what they should do if their businesses are closed, and they are not able to hire back their staff, but want to have that funding turned into a grant. So I would advise small business owners to contact the SBDC at Columbia University that serves our community.
Thank you so much.
Cicely, we have two members, attendees in the chat who had their hand raised, Deborah Cochran and Julius Tajideen.
Really quickly, we have an announcement from board member Marcus Wilson.
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know, I know everyone's cleaning their homes and everything and looking for places to donate goods. Goodwill of New York and New Jersey, they're still accepting donations. So you would just have to email, the email address is donations.department@goodwillnynj.org. And they'll send you prepaid donation bags that you can they'll send to you, and you can just put it in to the UPS or your post office to send back to them.
Thank you, Marcus. We will hear these last two quick announcements from Deborah Cochran.
Mute now.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, hi, Deborah.
Hi, how are you? I'll make this quick. During the past 41 years, my chapter has Delta Sigma Theta, New York alumni chapter, has been doing volunteer work at it used to be the Greater Harlem Nursing Home, which is now the Harlem Center. What we wanted to know is, can we, a couple of us, join the committee with the health and, Mr. Duke's committee, to work with sharing some of our concerns since we've been in there. The last time we were present was in December, before all of this started. We didn't go in January, and then we had the COVID issue. So is a certain person and I can reach out to and follow this up at a later date? On your
Contact me through the office.
Okay.
I would like for you to come to our meeting.
Sure.
We'll see what the May meeting have for the agenda, and Mr. Mitchell will get in touch with you. I'd like for you to come and present to the meeting, and I'm asking, I know Convent Baptist Church have a lot of parishioners at that center, so we want to hear from the community, and most certainly we welcome that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'll share it with the I'm the chair of the nursing home committee, and then we have the social action committee that wanted to be part of this also. So I thank you for allowing me to share my concerns.
Absolutely. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Do we have her email and information that we can contact her to see what we have on the agenda for the 18th?
Yes, I can either give my email in the chat, or she can give me hers.
Good. Okay. And we can put her on. We'll see how many presenters we have for the 18th. I heard someone want to speak about mental health. Someone was on the call. Okay. And Mr. Mitchell will contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And Michelle, I believe you had some quick additions that the congressman co-sponsored $100 billion in emergency rental assistance and $25 billion for stay-at-home act to avoid eviction. So thank you for adding that to your discussion. We have one last quick comment, I believe, an announcement from Julius Tajanine.
Hi, everyone. So I just wanted to, experience
Julius,
this.
there's an echo. There's an echo.
Hold on. Can you, hold on, let me get rid of it. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So I just wanted to experience this. So now is my first time. I got the hang of it. So Cheryl Smith, I want to talk to you. So I'm going to email you. Is Cheryl still around?
We'll make sure that she gets your information, Julius.
Okay. So anyway, I want everyone to be safe. And if you need to reach me for anything, I am around. Okay.
Thank you, Julius. I believe you put your information in the chat. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more announcements, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you.
So moved.
By common consent, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, we are adjourned at 8:53 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
be sure to be safe and reach out if you need anything.
Thank you, Cicely.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Great meeting.
Bye, guys. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Thank you.
You didn't congratulate the reappointees.
Yes, she
Oh,
did.
yes, we're still
Oh,
here,
no, she
Crystal.
didn't.
They didn't get rid
No,
of
you're
us.
right.
We're
You're
still
right.
here.
Reappointed.
Yes, we're
Right.
all still here. Yes, I was reappointed as well. Thank you, Crystal.
You're right, Crystal.
Thanks for coming back.
Oh, no
Thanks for
problem.
good
I love you guys.
Hi, Crystal. How's the grandbaby?
Grandbaby is excellent. She's asleep now. Thank God.
Okay.
But everything is well, and I love you guys, and thank
We
you.
love you too. Great to hear from everybody.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. And thank Monique Jackson and Barbara Askins for dialing in. Thank you, guys. Okay. Good night.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Stay healthy.
Bye. Thank you.